Record and welcome to today's webinar on the 22 strategies that earned me a bundle in real estate. And before I go to the slide deck, I want to tell you guys that I put a lot of time into thinking about over 35 years. What were the things that I did? What were the things that I taught that absolutely rocked me? The things that just totally separated me from other realtors, the things that just made me money hand over foot, the things that well, like my son Casey, who's watching this morning. I hope, Casey, you better be listening, who is an attorney in both Arizona and California, but he's going to be joining us selling real estate here in Arizona. And what would I teach my son? If I could only teach my son Casey 22 things about real estate, 22 things that he should do that would most move his needle in selling real estate, that's what today's about. It's about those 22 things. So we are going to just rock it and get started here. We're going to start the screen share. There we go. And kaboom. Wake up excited about real estate, 22 top money making strategies. And I am going to rock through these today. If you have questions about any of these, email Jen at Real Estate Mavericks. We have supplementary materials on every one of these strategies. We have videos, we have audios, we have all kinds of stuff. So if one in particular interests you, or more than one interests you, you'll want to email Jen, and Jen will give you some supplementary materials that will take you a bit deeper. So number one, this is the biggie. I call it process selling. Now, the story there is, briefly, when I was just getting started in real estate, and some of you have heard this story, I started off like everyone else. I mean, how do you get listings when you're new in real estate? I mean, it's like really hard. And I was getting shot down, even though I was working for my dad's real estate firm in Cincinnati, Ohio. I was still getting shot down, even though I used the dad card. And I said, I work for my dad's firm. And he had a firm like 7, 8 offices, 300 agents. And, I was Mr. Hague's son. So you would think that would carry some weight on listing appointments. It carried virtually no weight. Who wants to list with a newbie? I mean, I wouldn't have listed with me in retrospect. So I had to come up with a solution. So, I was like up against it. And I came up with this idea, and I've talked about it a lot. And it was this idea of make every agent your listing agent. And I thought, wow, I know what I'll do. I'll go in, and because I'm losing to other agents, I'll just tell the sellers that if you list with me, I'll co-broke my entire commission, the entire commission, with every single agent in Cincinnati. And so it's like making every agent your listing agent. I mean, they'd make the same commission selling you every one of them would make the same commission selling yours if they sell my listing as if they sold their own listing. In other words, double what they would normally make. And so I say to sellers, why would you list with any one of them when you can essentially have them all? And then if they really do have buyers like they say, they will end up selling your home. I listed the next 10 homes in a row. Now, I don't tell you that because of that particular strategy. What ended up happening is I only sold one myself, where I made, actually the commissions back then were 7%. That was way back in the old days. I only sold one of those 10 myself. So the other 9 I sold for free. That is, the agent who sold it made the commission. All 10 of the homes sold. But I did sell one. I got my branding on 10 homes. I got lots of buyer leads from my signs and my ads. I did sell one of those homes and made 7%. 6 of those people bought through me, so I made 3% commissions there. And those 10 people referred business to me for years to come. I took amazing care of them, and they were so appreciative for what I'd done. My point is not to use that strategy. Use that, don't use that. That was the first strategy I ever used. But that opened my eyes to a concept that I call process selling. Process selling. What is that? Selling a process instead of selling yourself. Selling a process instead of selling yourself. So you go in, and the focus is not just on you. The focus is on this home selling process you have that people will be able to logically and transparently see will increase. And remember these words. This is really critical when you're developing a process. That home sellers can logically and transparently see it will increase the probability that their home will sell faster and, more importantly, at a higher price. That's what I call process selling. Very few realtors do that. They basically go in and sell themselves, and then their home selling process is the same as everyone else's. They'll put up a sign and put it in MLS right away and run some ads and all this stuff, but it's basically same old, same old, same old, same old. They don't have a unique differentiating home selling process that they can persuade sellers is better than what other people are doing. That is the single number one strategy that over the years, through my 29-day fast sale plan, my private home marketing plan, my 990 opportunity, I could go down this list of all these things I've used. That alone, right there, process selling has made me millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars using that as opposed to just selling myself. Of course I sell myself. Of course I do the same kinds of things that other realtors do in terms of making sure the people like me, trust me, want to do business with me, understand my success and my experience. But I will tell you, you can take a newbie in the business, and that if they have a super strong process like I did, a newbie can beat an old-time experienced agent every single time. And why not? If the sellers really believe that their process is superior to the process used by other agents. That's number one. Number two, a compelling message. It is amazing to me, and I'll be talking about promo cards in a little bit. I do not understand why more realtors don't have what I call a compelling message. This is back in the late 80s. I introduced the 990 opportunity. This was the compelling message. My first compelling message, and I plastered it on all kinds of door hangers and things, was make every agent your listing agent. Talk to me first. This was back in the late 1970s when I was working for my dad's company, make every agent your listing agent. Years and years later, when I started my first company that grew to 4,000 agents and 121 offices, it was all based on something that was watershed back then, and that was simply allowing sellers to hold their own homes open. If they would happen to find a buyer who was not working with a real estate agent, then they paid a commission of just $9.90. It happened about 1 out of 8 times, but the marketing, the compelling message, sell your home with complete full service, a normal listing, everything else, MLS, but a commission as low as $9.90 was one of the most powerful, compelling messages that I ever had in my life. In fact, I've trademarked $9.90. I've had that trademark for years. But the bottom line is, that message made me a fortune, made agents all over the country a fortune, and still is. Now, I'm not saying to use that message. I'm just saying you need a compelling message. Like one of the ones that I'm teaching right now, I'm teaching several. One of the ones I'm teaching right now is centered around buyer rebates. I believe that buyer rebates are a huge blue ocean opportunity for those of you out there. And those of you who are following me and following my coaching, my webinars, know that I'm going really deep in terms of teaching how to leverage buyer rebates and flood yourself with buyers, not only so that you can make buyer side commissions, but if you have the buyers, to be able to use that as leverage to go in and get the listings and to do it in a specific demographic. Well, my point is, a compelling message built around a buyer rebate is, if you go to a buyer, is like, hey, buy through me and get $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 cash back at closing. Or if you're marketing to sellers, learn how I can sell your home for top dollar plus $7,500, or top dollar plus another 1%. And it's because you're offering a rebate on that seller's home that will not only attract buyers, but because buyers are getting that cash in their pocket at closing, it's doing what? Putting buyers in a position where they can buy that seller's home and actually pay more, whatever that rebate is, and still get the deal they wanted. So it truly is fair advertising, where you say to a seller, learn how I can. You're not saying guaranteed that amount. Learn how I can actually sell your home for top dollar plus and then some amount of money. My point is, you have to have a compelling message. I am just amazed. 1.2 million realtors out there, and I would venture to say less than 1% of them, probably 0.1%, are identified with a compelling message. I can't think, once I got that and understood that, I don't think that I went a month, over 35 years of selling real estate, 1 month without having a compelling message, always pushing one compelling message. So that's strategy number 2. Number 3, a Rainmaker mentality. What do I mean by that? I understood from an early age that the real key to making money in real estate is being able to rainmake, bring in business. And you say, well, Greg, I know that. I mean, how could anybody not know that? Well, I want to take that to the next level. I didn't think about it so much in the context that this is about me bringing in a lot of business just for me. I think a lot of agents is just, how can I get another listing appointment today? How can I get another buyer to work with today? And in my view, it's bigger than that. It's this idea that studying all of the lead gen systems, studying every possible technique and strategy that exists in the world and ones that don't even exist, what can you do? How can you spend the smallest amount of money to generate the greatest amount of business? What specifically can you do? I mean, understand that if you learn how to bring in business, to make the phone ring, if you come up with processes and then compelling messages, and have the mentality that I'm thinking every day, not about going out and listing real estate, not about going out and selling real estate. Of course you do that, but I'm thinking about how to make the phone ring. You build a company around that. And as I'll talk later in here, you have listing partners, buyer partners, et cetera. But my point is to get your head into rainmaking. I want to be the #1 smartest rainmaking realtor in the world. I want to think every day, all day long, when I'm driving around, everything I'm doing, on how I can generate more calls from sellers and more calls from buyers on less time and less money. And that's what I call a rainmaker mentality. And boy, once I got that rainmaker mentality and I was thinking about it all the time, you don't come up with good ideas unless you're torturing yourself to come up with good ideas. And I've used my what I call 7-dimensional thinking a lot of times to do that. And that's thinking of various things that are being done out there to do what you want. That is to generate business in real estate, but thinking about them in 7 ways: bigger, smaller, faster, slower, opposite, different, and gone. And really, if you start analyzing what's going on in the world, what various people, what realtors, what lead gen systems, what these websites, what everybody's doing, what Redfin's doing to have the most consumer traffic website out there. If you start thinking about all these and then you quickly apply those parameters. What if I did it bigger? What if like the Redfin rebate? What if I did it bigger? What if I did it smaller? What if I did it faster, made something faster, made something slower? What if I did it just the opposite? What if I did it different, in a different color, different shape, different this? Or what if it was just gone? You couldn't even do that. What would I substitute for that? You run through those parameters, and that is how you start thinking about, in my view at least, the different ways that you can rainmake. So rainmaker mentality, that's #3. #4, promo cards. This only take a second. How in the world? How do you have business cards that don't have your compelling message? I mean, that is like nuts to me to not have a business card. I mean, I can't think of 35 years in real estate when I had a business card that didn't have my compelling message. Sometimes it was if I was pushing my private home marketing plan in Paradise Valley when I was building my upscale luxury brokerage, check out my private home marketing plan, on there, learn how to sell your home without the normal open houses and all that drill and fine print. But my private home marketing plan, my 29-day fast sale plan, they'll make every agent your listing agent, the 990 opportunity. But always, when I handed my business card out, I was always putting my compelling message on my business card. That's what a promo card is. The idea that you have business cards and it just says, oh, here's my pretty picture. Here I am. Aren't I gorgeous? And I've been in the business all these years and all that stuff. I mean, come on, guys. That is boring. That is like boring. You cannot do that. You need to order promo cards today. But you, of course, have to have your process, your compelling message, then the promo cards. And, of course, the promo cards are part of what? A rainmaker mentality. A rainmaker mentality. Next, personal brochure. That is something, first of all, that's Sunny on there. Sunny, actually, I don't know if you're on the webinar this morning, but I was emailing Sunny this morning. She's part of our coaching. She is an awesome person. And so personal brochure is a concept I developed maybe 20, 25 years ago. It's not like the typical corporate or personal or professional brochure. It's a brochure about you. Who you are as a person, maybe your family, your background. I know in my personal brochure, I talked a lot about my dad. I had photographs of my family. And the main use of it, I used it in a lot of different ways, but the main use of it was to have it pre-delivered on listing appointments before I went on the listing appointment. I wanted the people to start to get to know me, to understand me, to start to like me, to start to trust me before I even arrived. And that personal brochure was so powerful in doing that. I also put it in the hands of prospective buyers who were working my buyer team. I mean, we used it in a lot of ways, but if you don't have a personal brochure, you need one. And that is something that we do have a separate coaching division where we develop these kinds of things. And if you're interested in that, you can email Jen@realestatemaveriks.com, and she will connect you with Erin on our team. And Erin does help agents develop their own personal brochures, and she is awesome at that. I think you can even email Erin, ERIN, @realestatemaveriks.com directly if you're interested, or Jen. Okay, personal brochure, that has made me, I can tell you, when I arrived on listing appointments and the people had seen, they had always read my personal brochure, it was the first thing they said. They would comment about my background and my dad and how I wrote in there about how real estate was more to me than just making a paycheck, making a commission check. And I can tell you, it just started listing appointments off so right. So personal brochure, strategy number 5. Number 6, your personal backstory. Well, I would always have my personal backstory in my personal brochure, but what is your backstory? What is your personal backstory? I teach 7 personal backstory themes. I'm not going to do it now because this is about these 22 strategies, and I'm committed to try to get through this in about a half an hour. But the idea is, I always started after I had walked through the house, met the home sellers. I always started with, before I gave what we're going to call my like official listing presentation, I would start with my personal backstory. And my personal backstory was how I got started with my dad and how I would sit at dinner every night when I was like 11, 12, 13 years old. And my dad was he was just obsessed in a positive way with real estate. He wanted to know everything. He wanted to be he was committed to being the best. And this is my backstory, by the way. And he was committed to having me be the best. And so I didn't just grow up and then decide to get into real estate because I could see that all these commissions are so big and you can make a lot of money. Real estate was my heritage. Real estate was in my blood. Real estate was my fiber. And also my dad, this is my backstory. He taught me real estate at a level that I think very few people know. And I would then always use like the definition of real estate. One of the first things I'd say he taught me is the definition of real estate. And I would tell sellers, it's so funny. You know, most realtors don't even know the definition of the business they're in. What is real estate? Well, real estate is, and this is exactly as my dad taught it. And I would tell people, this is my backstory. They would always smiling. They like this, I'd say, so my dad, when he first got me started at dinner, he would say, well, the first thing you're going to learn is the definition of real estate. So he would say, real estate is real property plus the title thereto. That is real property capable of being sold. Because in a lot of countries like Israel, for example, most of the land in many countries is owned by the state and cannot be privately owned. So there's no real estate business. There is real property, but there's no real estate. So real estate is real property that can be privately owned, or real property plus the title thereto. Well, then that begs the question, what is real property? Well, this is my dad's definition, like word for word. I have gotten this, like nailed this, like for 45, 50, what a long time, ever since he taught me when I was a kid. Real property is the land, what's beneath it, what's attached thereto, what's erected thereon, and the right of light and air above. And believe me, if I didn't say it word for word in that order, I tell sellers just like that. My dad would just whack me and make me do it again. And I'd say, now, what does that mean? It's the land, what's beneath it, all the way down to the center of the earth in a V, okay? What's attached thereto, like shrubs, what's erected thereon, like houses, okay? And then the right of light and air above. And I'd point out that, sure, there are governmental restrictions, like the right of light and air above. If a plane flies over, you can't shoot it down. You're not allowed to do that. So in these days, those basic rights, that basic definition is subject to some regulations, but still, that does not change the basic definition of real estate and real property. Well, why did I tell sellers this? Because I wanted them to understand my background. I wanted them to understand how real estate was everything to me, how it was heritage. And I had another motive. I wanted them to understand, and where I wasn't just boasting, how smart I was, how I had been learning real estate and real estate strategy since I was 12 years old. You've got to have a personal backstory. It needs to be yours. Mine is mine. If you don't have a background in heritage and real estate, that doesn't matter. You can usually you can always leverage your background the things that you've done, the reversals you've had, the triumphs you've had, into a backstory that'll be engaging and will let people know that, wow, this is the kind of person that we want in our life. This is the kind of person we want selling our home. And there are some backstory themes like loss and redemption, curation. There are actually 7 backstory themes that you can, whatever your backstory is, that if you package them in one of these themes, they'll be more powerful. I do have those in a Voxer, in an Voxer audio. And if you'd like a copy of that for free, then just email Jen, Jenn at realestatemaverickс.com. Personal backstory. That made me a lot of money. And I love telling it. Pre-listing gift. I had a pre-listing gift, and you guys know that have followed me that it was for like 30 years. It was cherry butter. And Roseanne, do we have a jar of cherry butter over there? I'm going to show you a jar of cherry butter here, and just because I want to. So I still eat this Brownwood Farms cherry butter. I love this stuff. Well, the bottom line is that it should be something that you. So here's my cherry butter. So there it is on the screen. This Brownwood Farms. There we go. You got that. Brownwood Farms cherry butter. It is like so good. And in fact, just ordered from Brownwood Farms. So in any case, I would have, along with my personal brochure, a pre-listing gift delivered on the listing appointments. This is so important, with a little note on it, handwritten from me, that simply says, I know we'll be meeting. I want to thank you for the opportunity to meet with you and discuss the sale of your home. Never the listing. Never say the listing of your home, and discuss the sale of your home, or me helping you with the sale of your home. And write that in a little note. I had them all pre-written and signed. I always said the same thing, and I'd put the person's name at the top. Just write that in. And then that was always delivered with my personal brochure. So you guys know that. That was something I've given, I don't know, I guess thousands of these pre-listing gifts, and boy, did they work. And then I used these in other ways too. I used the cherry butter and gave it as all kinds of gifts for people or buyers that were working, my buyer agents, etc. So that's number 7. Number 8, the pick and pitch plan. So the pick and pitch plan, how that came about is when I launched YUSA, which was my company that grew to 121 offices, and it was based on the 990 opportunity. We were so flooded with buyers. We were so flooded with buyers because our homeowners were holding their own homes open. And just in Phoenix, we had a couple thousand listings, 3,000 listings, more, thousands of listings. I was running full page ads in the Arizona Republic. That was pre-internet days. And you can imagine with all of our sellers holding their own homes open, and then filtering us, all the buyers who came through without agents, sending them over to us, that we were flooded with buyers. Well, that's what gave me the idea to bring on what I'd call today buyer partners. These are agents who were on my team who did nothing but work buyers, because we were getting so many buyers from our sellers and so many buyers from our ads and our signs. So I wanted to come up with a way to be more effective at working with these buyers. And that's what I call this pick and pitch plan. And effectively what it is this. We had all these buyers always, and some were like the Class A buyers. We'll call it the ones who want to find a home right now. Well, this doesn't even apply to them that much. You just take those buyers and you work with them until you find them a home. And hopefully that happens fast, in a day or 2 or 3. Sometimes it takes longer. Sometimes it takes like 50 showings, but you hope not. But the other buyers, the ones who aren't glued to you, aren't out looking with you every day, the idea is to be on the lookout. I had my buyer agents, my buyer partners, on the lookout for really special new listings. Not necessarily even ones we listed, just what were the absolute best new listings that would come up every day. They'd quickly go and preview those, and then they'd look at the list of buyers. We had a huge list of buyers who our sellers had sent us and had called, and then we'd look and see which buyers fit that price range, and we'd then call them. And so my buyer partner would then call like 12 or 15 buyers on one home. So the concept there was, instead of showing one buyer a lot of homes, we would look for one really amazing new listing and then pitch that to a lot of buyers. So it was pitching one home to a lot of buyers instead of showing one buyer a lot of homes. And I called it my pick and pitch plan. And I got to tell you, we made a fortune. We made gazillions of sales we never would have made, because people love to know about new listings in their price range, in their area. And my buyer partners were on the phone constantly pitching all day, every day, whenever they weren't actually out showing homes. So that is what I call my pick and pitch plan. Like with everything else, I have an audio and have a video on this if you're interested. Number 9, bestseller close to get sellers to accept the offers they should. And that strategy is simply this. I came up with this idea 25, 30 years ago that I needed to change the mindset of sellers. We all have this problem. 2 big problems with sellers is how to get them to price their homes right. And I'm going to talk about that. I think it's the next slide. And the other one is how to get them to accept offers they should. They many times want to counteroffer and maybe blow away a buyer that they shouldn't. And with an offer they should take. I mean, that happens all the time. So I was always thinking, what could I use? What could I say? That would be so powerful that sellers would just have to accept an offer that they should? I'm not going to use this on an offer that I don't think they should take, but I'm going to use it when I think they should. So this is the single most powerful thing I came up with, and that was to change their mindset, to get them to realize that they really weren't sellers, that they were buyers. That when I had this offer on their home and I was sitting at the table with them, that they really weren't home sellers, they were really home buyers. And you might look at me, I know you're looking at your computer and you're saying, Greg, that's weird. What does that mean? Well, what it means is this, is I would say to the home sellers, I would say, do you realize, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, that today I know you think you're a home seller, but you're really not. You're actually a home buyer. Did you know that? And they would always look at me kind of curious. And I would say, well, it's true. I would say, here's why. Because we have a good offer from a qualified buyer. Highly likely that this will go smoothly and that this will close. And it's for, let's say, $470,000. Now, I know you are wanting to get closer to 500, 480, 485, maybe 490. I know that. But we've been on the market all this time. This is the highest contract we've seen. And here's the thing. This home is sold. What did I say? 470, I think. So say it's 470. This home is sold at $470,000. All you have to do is sign this. So if you choose not to, it's like you've just bought your own home back, this home at $470,000, because you've got this money in your pocket. If you sign this in 30 days, it's going to be closed. So really, by making the decision not to sign this contract, by making the decision not to sell, you're actually buying your home back for $470,000, knowing that in the last month or two that it's been on the market, we've not seen an offer for this much. I want to ask you, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, if you were investors, because really, take the emotion out of this. This is now just about the money. You've decided to sell your home. There should be no emotion here. If you were an investor with $470,000 in your pocket, because you have that 470 right now if you want it, of all the possible places you could put 470,000, is this what you'd buy? Of all the stocks and the bonds and the houses and everything that you could spend 470, knowing that this has been sitting on the market, knowing that this house has not seen an offer this high, and knowing that it's going down in value by the week, would you really pay $470,000? Now they'll look at me curious about that going down in value by the week. They'll say, what do you mean going down in value by the week? And I'll say, well, here's the thing. Even though the market in general, homes are appreciating, let's say 5% a year, once a home is on the market, and time on the market starts to accumulate, it does go down in value because buyers look at it and say, gosh, this has been on the market at like $495 for 2 months and it hasn't sold, so it must be overpriced. Even if it's not overpriced, buyers are going to presume it's overpriced. So here we have this 470. Your home is going down in value the more time it tracks on the market. Would you really, if you were an investor, buy this home at 470? You know you wouldn't. And that's why you should reach down and accept this contract. And well, I'll just tell you. Number one, I only did that when I really believed that that was the deal they should take. And they were always happy after they did. Sellers always are to just get it done. Wow. I got to tell you, the number of deals I made using that the sellers would not have made otherwise, well, that was a lot of money every year. Okay, number 10, best way to get sellers to price their home right. Well, I'm actually going to mention 2 things. One is my MLS pre-marketing, which I'll be talking about in a minute. And starting back in the late 1980s, I developed my 29-day fast sale plan. Actually, it might have even been in the mid-1980s. And all that was really was before I would put up a sign, before I would put a home in MLS, I talked to the sellers about to let me pre-market it. Let me get it out to realtors. It wasn't like a pocket listing. Let me get it out to realtors. Let me get it out to home buyers. Let me run some ads. That was all good. But I pointed out to them how, again, time in MLS kills the price of a home. So, and people love to see homes that are not officially on the market. And I would talk to home sellers about that, and they would almost always say, sure, go ahead and do the pre-marketing if you're willing to put the time and energy into that. And of course, it was a great listing strategy, but that was also a great strategy to get people to price their homes right, because before it went in MLS, because then we'd price the home and then I'd work on it for like this 29 days and get it out there, always get showings, have a neighborhood event, do all these things I teach. And then if it didn't sell, before we put it in MLS, I'd always have a lot of price input that I could share with the sellers to get them to reconsider the price and maybe get it lower before we went official and put it in MLS. So that was one really good strategy to get sellers to price their home right. And another one is what I call my top dollar appraisal. I always had appraisers. I had one in particular here in the Valley who's just an amazing person. He's still in the business. And he would give me a discounted rate because I gave him so many appraisals. And I would try to persuade the sellers to pay for. I didn't pay for it. I told him I'd reimburse him out of my commission in closing, but to spend a few $100s to get what I called a top dollar appraisal. And what that is, before we decided on the price. So I would put in the listing contract, I'd always have them sign the listing agreement, never hold off on that, for gosh sake. But I would put price to be decided in there, or I would put whatever price they wanted me to start, but we wouldn't officially get it out there on the market until we had this appraisal. And what I tell them is, what we're going to do is we're going to instruct the appraiser to appraise your home, not at normal value, at the highest possible amount. You can do that. You can instruct an appraiser to give you a quick sale appraisal, that like, what is a price that this home would sell for quickly? That like would be the low appraisal, like a foreclosure kind of appraisal, or a normal market appraisal, or one under optimal circumstances. What is the most this home could sell for? And I would tell the sellers, that's the kind of appraisal we're going to order, which appraisers are allowed to do. You give them specific directions on what you want in the appraisal, under optimal circumstances, everything being like optimal, what would be the highest dollar, the highest amount this home would sell for. So I would say to the sellers, this will, number one, help us price the home right, because we're never going to be able to sell it for more than this, because the lender for the buyer would never appraise it for more than this. Number one. Number two, I say this will give me a good tool to use to get a buyer up to pay top dollar. And number three, of course, it's a good pricing guide, a good way for us to determine what our list price should be, because again, we could never sell it for more than this. And I would guess that I was able to persuade 2/3 of my sellers to spend that, particularly when I told them I'd reimburse them out of my commission at closing, and that it was usually about half price. It was about a half price appraisal, because the appraiser I used was getting so much business that he would happily do that. So those were two pricing strategies that really helped me get listings priced more reasonably and sell more quickly. Number 11, what I call the Meticulosity walkthrough. The Meticulosity walkthrough. What this is a nutshell, is when you go over on a listing appointment, and I talk about this a lot in my live presentations. I have a lot of fun with this. I wanted the sellers to see me see in the screenshot there, to see me with a tablet in my hand, and I'd slow down this walkthrough. I mean, I remember once I saw a video like a few months ago of a real estate trainer who was doing a training video role play, and he knocked on the door, and there the sellers came in, or the sellers opened the door, and he came in, and he said to him, "Hey, take a seat while I do a quick walk through your home." No, I mean, the walkthrough is like one of the biggest parts of the listing appointment. It's where you're going to get to know the sellers, bond with them, find plaques and other things of common interest. But it's also where you're going to slow down the process and take like amazing copious notes, filling up page after page on your yellow tablet, so that the sellers see you preparing to sell their home and get this perspective that, wow, this guy is like here. He is totally preparing to sell this home instead of just here to interview, to list the home. And I always had this thing where I was trying to make this so good and so meticulous and ask them so many questions that they'd almost feel guilty if they didn't list with me. So I call that my Meticulosity walkthrough. My agent disablers. In the event you don't get a listing on the first appointment, you want to set yourself up so that the sellers will call you back and give you the listing, because they're probably interviewing other agents. Usually you don't get it on the first appointment because they want to interview some other agents. So I have an audio and videos on agent disablers. You can go into my YouTube and look up some of my agent disabler videos, or I actually think I have a couple of audios. Jen will be glad to pass those along. But basically, it's a list of questions. So you say, to the seller, they want to interview a couple other agents, fine, et cetera. But you say to them, here is a list of questions you might look at and consider asking any agent you interview, because I consider these the most important questions, the questions I'd ask if I had a home and I was not a real estate agent, the questions I'd ask to determine. And I know, say, I'm smart because I am a real estate agent. I've been in the business all my life. So these are the questions that I would ask to see if I was getting the right agent. Well, I mean, these questions are like questions, for example, on the neighborhood. I preach how you got to know the neighborhood better, know it at a level that no one else does. I mean, these are questions that agents just aren't going to be able to answer, because very few agents are prepared at the level I was. Very few agents are prepared to answer these questions. So what it does is it puts you in a position where the agents are walking into this. They don't even know it. Other agents, the sellers, are going to casually ask them these questions, and they're going to flub the answers, and it increases the likelihood that you will get a call back and get the listing. And again, if you'd like some information on that, we have videos and audios. Number 13, pre-MLS marketing strategy. Well, I talked about that before as a pricing strategy, but I'm simply going to say this to you. The article, last December, I think the end of December, Forbes ran an article about my 29-day fast sale plan, and how this was such a, I don't know why it should be revolutionary. I've been doing it forever, but I guess nobody's really doing it. This idea that you think like Apple. Apple gets people standing in line to buy an iPhone. They don't just put their new iPhone 7 on the shelf. I mean, and then let us know, oh, by the way, it's on the shelf. That is ridiculous. They never do that. Any of the smart retailers, any of the smart marketers, before they actually put their product out there and make it available, they build some anticipation, they build some excitement, they build some hype. And I talk to home sellers, whether you use my 29-day plan or my shortened version 11-day plan or your own plan, just don't slap homes on the market like a loaf of bread. This idea that we got to put homes in MLS within 48 hours and put a sign up right away is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. That's an antiquated rule that was implemented to keep selfish agents from taking a listing and then keeping it away from other agents, pocketing it, as they say, so they can make both ends of the deal. That's not what true pre-marketing is. Pre-marketing involves pre-marketing to other agents, probably more so than even your own buyers. The whole idea of pre-marketing is to get everybody excited, to give other agents out there an opportunity to call their buyers and say, hey, Greg Hague just listed this home and it's not officially on the market, doesn't have a sign, not MLS. It sounds perfect for you. He just called me and said to me that it's not going to go in MLS for several days, and that if any buyer I have would like to privately see it, he'll arrange that. I mean, that is like the call that buyers want to receive. Why wouldn't you do that? Agents say, oh gosh, it's too much work, it's too much effort, it's too much this, it's too much that. Well, if that's the case, what are you doing even interviewing for the listing? I mean, you should be thinking about every single thing you can do to increase the probability these people are going to sell their home faster and at a higher price. And of course, this also is going to help you price the home right. So that's pre-MLS marketing. Next, listing partners. Real briefly, this goes back to my Rainmaker mentality. I realized early on that for me to focus most of my energy on driving in listing calls, driving in buyer calls, on making rain, that I would have to have help. So I developed this concept of listing partners, and I've trained many over the years who are now some of the top agents in Phoenix. One who's, I'll just mention him, Chris Karras. Karas. I think he'll do $50-75 million this year with Sotheby's. He was brand new license with me. He was one of my listing partners, go out on appointments. Shane Ashcraft, another Sotheby's agent here in Phoenix, a wonderful guy. All these people, excellent friends. I actually hired Shane. He was Houston's restaurant. He was a manager at Houston's restaurant. I thought he had an amazing personality. So I hired him, got him licensed, and he started becoming one of my listing partners. And I'll explain how that works in a minute. Michael Brown. Michael Brown's like a son to me. And Michael, same thing, brand newly licensed. And all these people have then grown and become extraordinarily successful on their own. Well, they were my listing partners. So what that means is I would I would generate listing appointments. My goal was at least one listing appointment every day, to never have a day without a listing appointment. And then I would always take, one of my listing partners with me. I had 11 in my brokerage. And let's say I was taking Shane. So Shane would do the workup. He would do the workup. He would pre-deliver the gift, pre-deliver the brochure. And then we would get in the car, like a half hour before, and he would brief me. He'd give me a briefing on the sellers, the this, the that, all this stuff on the way over there. And then once we got it listed, I introduced him as my partner. He was my equal partner in this. We were going to work on it together, but he knew his job was to bond with the sellers, to do all of the stuff that needed to be done until the time an offer came in. So basically the two roles I played primarily was go out on the listing appointment and help get it, and then not come back into the picture unless I had to, and sometimes I did. Sellers wanted to talk to me and Shane both, and whatever, it's no big deal. But generally not come back into the picture until we got an offer on the property, in which case Shane and I would both go over, or Michael and I, or Chris and I, or whomever. So that was my listing partners, and I would generally give them a percentage of the list commission, maybe like 30% of the list commission. And then they also got to sell those sellers a home. They would be the buyer rep for those sellers, unlike my buyer partners who would work other buyers. So that was listing partners. Buyer partners were basically, I described that earlier. We had so many buyers coming in from our sellers open houses and from our signs and our ads. I just had a whole team of people who were buyer partners, and basically I would just feed them the business, and I would get a referral fee. They would make maybe 75, I'd make 25, a typical 25% referral fee. It varied over time, but basically that kind of thing. And it was a really nice deal. All those years I did that, where I was the rainmaker for my buyer partners, and my buyer partners were out there converting buyers into sales, making people happy, building their network. And all my buyer partners, virtually everyone, has become an amazingly successful realtor in their own right over the years, learning how to do this model that I set up. So that's buyer partners. Then marketing partners. Now, marketing partners are an interesting thing, because it occurred to me that I would want at least one person, and over time I had more than that, who reported to work in the morning. And these oftentimes were not real estate agents. This was somebody I would pay by the hour and then maybe give a spiff on appointments. And the marketing partner's job was not it's not a soft, how can I put this? This is not like in today's world, social media and everything. I mean, they had a specific goal. I was going to go on at least one listing appointment each day, 5 or 6 days a week, however many days I wanted to work. And that was their role, to do whatever it took to get me out on a listing appointment. That could be in today's world through calling by owners, calling expires. Generally, though, it was more through doing marketing, social media, engagement, all this stuff. It didn't matter to promoting whatever my process was, and my compelling message, getting that all out through the community. But the bottom line is, as I became successful, I hired a person, and their total job was one thing. Do not let I always told them over the upcoming month, these are the days that I want listing appointments. And their job was to make sure I had one, at least one, and optimally two, every single one of those days. That was their job. And, somebody who reports to work in the morning and their total job is nothing but that, they'll get it done. And can you imagine how much you can afford to pay this kind of person if they're putting you out on 5, 6, 7, 8 listing appointments a week, and you're listing 60, 70, 80% of those or more? I think I got my percentage up way high, close to 100%. Virtually listing every home. You're listing, you don't think you can't, in an area like Phoenix or big towns, whatever you're in, do not think you can't list 15 or 20 or 25 or 30 houses a month, or 35 houses a month, or 40 or 45 or 50. You can, but you need to get on the appointments. And so I hired and trained somebody to make sure I was. Those are my marketing partners. And also these listing partners, buyer partners, and marketing partners were what allowed me to build a scalable business, a business that I could make a lot more money than if I was doing everything, like the total cook and bottle washer, right? So next, owners showing their own homes. Well, I mentioned that earlier on, just that conceptually. I want you to think of that conceptually, because I really believe that this is going to be a big part of the future of real estate. I believe the future of real estate is going to involve a whole change in mindset for you. And instead of thinking about, and I taught for years how to all the strategies you can use to hold the line on commission. I think that the future of real estate is going to be a different mindset. It's going to be like I was quoted in an Inman article a few days ago. Mine was one of the featured quotes. And agents of the future, realtors of the future, are going to think like Amazon. They're going to be waking up every morning thinking about, how can I get this now? I know this is like going to be, oh gosh, I can't believe you're saying this, but how can I charge less? How can I charge less and earn more? How can I earn more by charging less. And that's thinking about cost efficiencies, time efficiencies, all these things you can work into the model that sellers would love or buyers would love, but it will enable you to spend less money and less time and charge them less. Because I'll tell you, those are going to be the winners. If you think home sellers are going to be paying 4 and 5 and 6% for much longer, trust me, they're not. They're not. Take my word for it. It ain't going to be true in 24 months. It's not true in a lot of places now. There are too many new alternatives coming out there, and they're just not even wanting to pay that kind of money. So don't fight it. Get in the right kind of thinking. It's what I teach. It's what I coach. It's the business and the brokerage I'm going to be launching here in Phoenix is all about how to just own the market by totally having a better price for buyers and sellers, but making more money doing it with cost and time efficiencies. And I want to say one other thing. It's not always just about having the lowest price. It's about having the best value proposition. So you want to have a highly competitive price, but that price doesn't have to be the lowest price based on the service you offer, based on your process for selling homes, based on the person saying, wow, I would gladly pay 0.5% or 1% more to this person, but I'm not going to pay 2 or 3 or 4% more. So the bottom line is it's a balance of cost efficiencies, time efficiencies, and having a better home selling process. Well, the reason I bring that up here is that I believe that we're going to see a lot more models where owners actually show their own homes. And I don't mean just hold their own homes open. I mean more like you send buyers over, where co-broke showings are done without the listing agent, where buyers go over and see the home, make appointment with the seller. You will make appointment with the seller and you're not even there. And I believe that that's going to be, you already see that with a number of companies now, and buyers like that. My nephew, Jason, just went out and bought a home, and we have a company here in Phoenix called Open Door, where they actually buy homes and then put them on the market, and you can go in and look at them anytime. You know, it's a kind of a lockbox that consumers can access. And every buyer I know loves the convenience of just being able to go quickly and look at a home. And quite frankly, when the home sellers are around, they love the idea that they can talk directly with the home seller. I believe that is something that you need to get your arms around and build into your model, is a component where owners are showing their own homes, whether it's just holding open houses and you give them a commission break if they find a buyer, all the way to they actually do all the showings and you don't go on any of the showings. Next, I call loss leader marketing, concept 18. And that was the 990 opportunity. And it really wasn't, I won't call it loss leader, but maybe it was. The 990 opportunity, I already described to you what that was. And that was where, picture Nordstrom, a great company, a great retail chain like Nordstrom, but they have a sale now and then. And so they offer a piece of merchandise that they're selling at cost or below cost for the purpose of bringing people into the store who can buy that merchandise, but also who will hopefully buy other normally priced merchandise and get in the habit of going into Nordstrom. All retailers do it. They have a sale. Well, the 990 opportunity was that. That's an example of what I call a loss leader. I don't know whether you can't think about it as losing money when you're actually making money, but what you're doing is, with that kind of marketing, is you're offering a special deal to people who fit a certain mold or accomplish a certain thing, who then they love it, and it's transparent, and there's no catches, and there's no there's no bait and switch. It just is what it is. You explain it like the 990. If you explain to home sellers when you're on a listing appointment, if you hold your own home open and you find a buyer and that buyer's not with a real estate agent, so there's no co-broke, then the commission is 990. At the same time, I'll be working on your home and all that. And if I sell it or any other realtor sells it, then the commission is X, whatever that is. And so the bottom line is, this is the kinds of things that I think realtors should think about more, is what kind of specials can they offer? What kind of things can they do out there that will attract buyers and sellers like a magnet, many of whom will end up taking advantage of that and some who won't. But the bottom line is it'll generate a lot more business. And you don't see much of that in real estate. You see it all over the place in retail. It's effectively done. And I just don't see any reason why it's not done more in real estate. I'm doing it actually in a way with a buyer rebate program that I'm launching here in Phoenix. And I'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. So number 19, owning one advertising medium. Well, I learned that actually just 15 or so years ago when I decided to build my luxury home brokerage in Paradise Valley. I recognized that one newspaper, the Paradise Valley Independent, was delivered free to every single Paradise Valley resident. I think there's about just under 6,000 homes in Paradise Valley, maybe 12, 13,000 residents. And this isn't something they had to subscribe to. It's a really nice publication, and everybody read it, and it was delivered every week to everybody in Paradise Valley. And I thought, wow, what a great way to, without doing anything else, to just own that one median and to generate a huge amount of business and build my brokerage. So I went in to just before I even opened, to upscale from medium priced homes to luxury homes and open this brokerage. I went and met with the people at the Paradise Valley Independent, and I bought like 4 or 5 full pages. And they were like, are you kidding me? Most every realtor, all the realtors in Paradise Valley had been around for years, and they were running a half page or maybe 1 full page, a couple of them, but they just were doing the sleepy kind of normal advertising. So I went in and I locked up like 4 or 5 full pages. I had the budget to do that, but you don't have to go at that level. And then I even got them to agree to let me put a sticker on the front page. This is like a tabloid kind of a thing, and it was like my company branded. Nobody'd ever done that, but since I was spending all this money, well, when I launched that, it was like all of a sudden I look like the #1 realtor in Paradise Valley overnight like that. Well, boom. So I launched this thing in Paradise Valley, and within the first month, I start getting calls, and I'm on listing appointments, and I'm only using this one medium, this one advertising medium. I had just locked it up, and I knew it was just going to rock. I mean, it could not. And it was really funny. The funny story is that I get a call like a month or 2 after I start this from the people at the PV Independent who were still friends today. I still deal with them. I'm still run ads over there. I still have the optimum position, page 3, in the PV Independent. And so but back then, so I get a call from them. They say, Greg, can you come over and meet with us? I said, well, sure. So I get over in this meeting, and they say, Greg, I wonder if you could cut back your advertising. And I say, cut back my advertising? What do you mean cut back my advertising? They said, I wonder if you could cut back. And I said, why? They said, well, to tell you the truth, all the other realtors who have been advertising with us for years, they all came in here as a group together, and they said, so unfair that we sold you all those pages and did all that stuff. And it was so unfair that we didn't let them know and all this stuff so they could have an opportunity, and that if we didn't cut you back, that they would pull out. And that was pretty funny. So I said, well, I won't cut back. And I could see the look on their face like, oh gosh, because we were under contract. They had to do it. But I said, I don't want you guys to get hurt. So you just send the message back to all my realtor friends in Paradise Valley that any of them that pull out, I'll take their positions too, so that you guys won't lose a nickel. And they said to me, really? You'll do that too? I said, yeah. If they all pull out, I'll take it all. I'll take every single position they're pulling out on. As you might imagine, none of them pulled out. They all increased their advertising. But it's the power of owning one advertising median. I highly recommend that to you, to look around for one median that goes to a good demographic. And it could be a demographic of, geographic. It could be a church bulletin like Ryan Byrne, an agent I coach in Orange County, who has just done that with his church bulletin, and he's done it magnificently in a total upscale way. It doesn't have to be like impacting a geographic area homes. Think creatively. Remember 7-dimensional thinking bigger, smaller, faster, slower, opposite, different, and gone. All kinds of different medians out there that you could own, lock up, and get it so that you build a firewall that other agents can't go in and look better than you. Okay, so that's that. 20 is thought leadership marketing. Well, one of the things I did particularly when I was selling, and I still do it a lot, obviously. That's when you're a coach and a trainer, you want to do this. You want to try to have people hopefully think you're a thought leader, right? That I'm leading thought and not following thought. And that's for you to decide, not me. Is Greg way back in the herd just following along, or is Greg out there saying some crazy, wacky things and leading thought? Who knows? That's up to you. But the bottom line is that in what you're doing, thought leadership marketing would be putting out blogs. Do this as just your time on LinkedIn and other places, and on Medium and all these other places out there that you can post blogs, do audios, and do videos. And don't just regurgitate the same old stuff. Talk about like pre-marketing if you believe in that, and take positions against tradition. Remember, thought leadership is about leading thought. I don't think a lot of people get that. You know, and you're going to get criticism. You're going to get shot at. I mean, when I launched 990, I mean, you would have thought I was like some kind of criminal in real estate. I mean, realtors were like all over my butt. Oh, you're ruining the industry and all this stuff and whatever. And I just thought, I don't get it. I mean, I'm making a lot of money. My home sellers love it. I mean, nobody ever said you got to charge 6%. There's nothing that, you know, the God of real estate didn't say 6% is what we always have to charge. So in any case, thought leadership marketing, it can be dangerous because you're getting out there and you're taking positions against tradition. You obviously only want to take ones you believe in, but you want to take ones that'll resonate in what you're doing. I want to take positions that would resonate with you because I coach and train. You'll want to take positions that will resonate with home sellers and home buyers, positions against the normal way things are done, so that you become known as a thought leader in your market through audios, videos, and blogs. And I mean, that is powerful marketing. People like to deal with thought leaders. 21, creative commission structure, never charge 6%. I've got an audio on that. If you don't have it through my Boxer audio, just email Jen and get that. I mean, charge more, charge less. Just don't charge 6%. I mean, yeah, I mean, do you just want to be like, what was that movie? I can't remember the name of it, where it was a movie where he was transported back and it was like black and white. Everything turned black and white and everybody was sterile in the town. Roseanne, do you remember the name of that movie? Remember that, where the town was black and white and everybody was sterile and you couldn't dare do anything and all this stuff? You know, that's what like real estate's like. And it's just like everybody does the same thing and everybody charges the same thing. I teach this creative commission structure. Pleasantville. Yeah, Pleasantville, the movie Pleasantville. So I teach this creative commission structure where, it's one commission if it sells co-broke. It's another commission if you sell the home. It's another commission if the sellers hold their own home open and find a buyer, like 2%. Doesn't have to be 990. But the bottom line is the percentages or the amounts. You can use percentages. That doesn't matter. Just be creative. Think about more fair. I wrote a Huffington Post article on it about how just charging one flat rate commission in all circumstances, it's just like stupid. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to the sellers. So, and also I talk about how whatever your commission plan and commission structure is, by all means, have it in a nice brochure. You're less likely to have it negotiated if it's there like it's beautiful and cast in stone. So have a creative commission structure. And lastly, what I call targeted demographic marketing. And what that is this. I use the Chinese restaurant example. I've used that in some webinars before. Think of a business. What business opens the door and doesn't have a targeted demographic? And like a Chinese restaurant would open the door. And they know that they're going to attract people probably within a 10 mile radius. People aren't going to drive 100 miles. They know they're going to attract people who like Chinese food. They're probably not going to attract people who don't like Chinese food. I mean, they have a specific, what we call a customer avatar, a particular kind of customer. And I know that realtors fear that if they choose and market to a specific demographic, that they'll lose other business. And I get that, but that actually isn't the case. What will happen is when you're targeting a specific demographic, a type of person, like a lawyer, a type of home, or like my son, Casey, I mentioned him early in the webinar. He was so excited. It was either yesterday or the day before. We found an article, one of the agents who I'm actually going to be working with in a venture, Kristen Gregg and Bud Gregg, working with here and I, they're in my coaching and they're dear friends. She forwarded over an article about millennials in Inman. And my son, is I think Casey's 34, and it was about how millennials this was a couple of days ago, bought half of all the homes that were purchased last year. And it gave very characteristics of how they're less likely to use an agent, but they're more likely to recommend an agent who they do use, just all these things. And it inspired my son Casey to say to himself, all right, I'm going to focus on a targeted demographic. I'm going to be the realtor, not just for millennials, because he said to himself, I can identify with them. I can market to them. I understand them, and I'm going to understand them better. But I'm going to market to first-time millennial home buyers, millennials who have never owned a home before. I love that. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of those in the Phoenix area. And so, yeah, it's true that if Casey's marketing to them, that his marketing probably isn't going to resonate with retired folks that are living out in Sun City. But so what? The bottom line is that is a way. Who's marketing to first-time home buyers who are millennials? I've not seen anybody with any powerful marketing campaign to them. And if Casey does a good job, his business will explode. And that doesn't mean at a later point, that doesn't mean, by the way, he can't work with older people. It doesn't mean he can't sell to other people, list that. Doesn't mean that. It just means his thrust and his marketing is at a targeted demographic, like a Chinese restaurant would do. You've got to do that. You've got to, and you can, by the way, doesn't mean you have to give up the business you're doing. And it doesn't mean you can't market to two, but you ought to start with one and just own that targeted demographic. I have done that over and over, and I did that, for example, in Paradise Valley. We listed homes outside Paradise Valley, but my total focus every morning when I woke up was it was like a stab in the heart. If another realtor got a listing in Paradise, and there's like 5,000 homes. I mean, I didn't get all the listings, obviously, but if I saw any of these other realtors and I was driving around and I saw them get a listing, it was like, this is my territory. I own this. I can't believe that I didn't get the interviewer to go out on that listing. And the idea is that was my demographic and I was determined to own it. And that's such a good mindset when you wake up in the morning. So for links and slide decks to our best webinars, email jen@realestatemaveriks.com. You can go to my website, Mavericks, and download my coaching brochure. But don't leave. Do not leave, because coming soon, if you're interested in this is something I'm going to be introducing in Phoenix. It's going to be like a Zillow. I'm going to see if I can, I've been coaching and training now for years since I moved from my brokerage to doing this. And I love it. I just love this. But I've gotten to the point that I want to prove that what I'm teaching works like a Swiss watch. And I'm going to prove that right here in Phoenix. So I've been working for months and months and months on a real estate model that is going to, it is going to bring in business like a magnet that you can't even believe. It is going to bring in business like a magnet you can't even believe. It's going to be a Zillow, like a Zillow with 2% cash back to home buyers, with 2% cash back to home buyers. So bottom line is, if you have an interest in that, we're just in a soft launch right now. The website is live, but it's got about a week's worth of design to do on it. I'm going to have a private only for Phoenix, an invite only event here in Phoenix to certain agents who I know are in my coaching. Those of you on the webinar today who have been following me, and that will be on November 10th at 9:30 a.m. at Cherry Creek Mortgage. If you're in Phoenix and you'd like an invite to that, then email Jen at Real Estate Mavericks, and she will be glad to make sure you do. If you're in another part of the country and you would like to understand that model and have our help on that model, then, and also when you go to the website, if you want to go to again, the website's not finished. It's got, about 5 days worth of amazing design work we're going to it, but download the Modern Homebuyer Rebate Guide. You can do that on the website. And then if you'd like more information on how you can maybe implement something that powerful with us, be licensed to use that in your market, then you can email Jen at realestatemaveriks.com or Jen at BuyerHunt, BUYERHUNT.com. And let's see together if a small group of us, this is a whole different kind of model. This is not the traditional brokerage model where we're trying to recruit agents. And, I hate that body shop model. I just got to tell you that. I'm going to finish this webinar with that. In fact, I'm going to go off of share here, and I'm just going to talk to you for a minute. One of the big reasons I'm doing this is because I despise what's happened in brokerage today. Back when this is just me talking, I'm going to keep the recorder going here, but back when I got started in real estate, working for my dad's firm, the commission split was 50-50. Okay, so there was no 100% or any of that stuff. Every commission that came in, my dad's company got 50%, I got 50%, the agents got 50%. But you want to know something? We were all making a fortune. Dad would never, ever recruit an agent that he couldn't give amazing amount of business. We'd cover floor time. That was when we would sit floor time shifts, a couple hours. And phone would ring 15 or 20 times. People interested in homes that we had listed, people wanting to talk about listing their homes, because my dad, as a broker, took responsibility to generate business for his agents. And he would not hire agents who he didn't make amazing, meticulously train, and then give an amazing amount of business to. And all of us just made a ton of money. We had to go out and be able to convert on listing appointments. And that was, I said early on, was hard when you're brand new, but there was no lack of business. And today's world, what's it become? I mean, a world of body shops where brokers are just recruiting you for your business or for your so much a month and so much a transaction fee. And I mean, having how many agents can we have? And brokers wake up every morning. They don't think about how much business we can generate for a business. They don't think about how they can generate consumer business. They don't even have a consumer model. Think of all the brokerages out there. They don't have any consumer model. I mean, if you say, what's the difference between this broker and that broker and this broker and that broker, and I won't name names, but you know what I'm talking about. Just go through all the national brands, go through all the local brands, and say, as a consumer, as a home seller or home buyer, how are they different to me? They're not. They're all the same. Is that stupid? I mean, all they're doing is brokers, and excuse my dogs here in the background, all they're doing, all these brokers are doing is waking up in the morning and thinking about what? How many agents they can recruit. And I have, by the way, I have the most amazing golden doodle, and he's getting all excited here, but he's a golden doodle. He's so gorgeous, and he's like now 12 years old. How old is he in people age, Roseanne? Like 11. So that would be what, 80 years old? Yeah, 77 years old. And gosh, I just love that dog. And in any case, he's outside now. But that model, I hate it. I think it's ruining the business because who's got better capability to market? A firm with power money or an agent? There's no way. A firm does. And agents can still have their own teams, have their own brand, but the firm should be driving in business, have a brand, and have the website like Redfin's. That's the power of Redfin. You know, I'm not a Redfin fan or not a Redfin fan, but you got to admit, there in Washington, D.C., Redfin has 450 listings with 19 agents, and it all comes from call-in business from their website. That's what a company should be doing. Those agents are like crazy busy all day long. 450 listings with 19 agents. So my point is to you is I'm going to develop a brokerage model that I believe is the way brokerage should be. And it's one thing to coach it. It's one thing to train it. And it's another thing to friggin' go out and do it. And I'm going to go out and do it. And I'm going to prove that that is a better place for agents, where agents are brought in because there's so much business we need them, and they have fun, and they're meticulously trained, and they have a good time together. And it isn't like a gazillion of us. It's just a few of us. And that few only increases as we have all this business, and we need more to bring in more people to handle it. And then we're careful about who we bring in, people we love, people we enjoy work with, etc. So there's my little tirade for this morning. And if you're interested in learning more about that, email Jen, J-E-N-N, at buyerhunt.com or mavericks.com. It all goes to the same place, and then we will get back with you. So let me see real quick if there's anything else. Okay, I have people saying here, I couldn't agree more. Yes, Bud and Kristen, how are you? And I know, and this is going to be a lot of fun. And yes, Jane, it is Pleasantville. And also, yes, Michael, it can be scaled. And you guys are amazing. So I am going to sign off for today. Let me stop the recording here. So there.